Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. My name is Crimson, and in this video we are going to be continuing and finishing the Dark Souls 3 design works. So in part 1 we covered the environments of the main game. In part 2 we covered the bosses, the NPCs, and the classes. And in part 3 in this video, we are going to be starting with the DLC section. So that's the intro. Let's just get right into it. So DLC, I'm really looking forward to covering this because the DLC for this game is amazing, and From Software has a habit of making the DLC have some of the best enemies and best bosses. So let us start. So we are starting off with the Ashes of Ariandel DLC. This is the first DLC that came from the game. That was released for the game. So on the left here we have the bridge that leads us up to the main castle, where we first meet Sister Frieda and Sir Wilhelm. Sir Wilhelm is one of my favorite characters in the Dark Souls series, both based on his armor and his weapon set, as well as his voice. His voice actor is one of the best voice actors I've ever seen in any game. He does a remarkable job as Sir Wilhelm. And then on the right, this is one of the starting areas that we see. And we make our way through this area, and eventually we can have the option of going into this castle structure on the top here. Here is one of the towns. These towns are populated by a species called the Corvians. They are very bird-like. We see two types. We see the standard Corvians, which are essentially just civilians, as well as the Corvian Knights, which are extremely dangerous, and they do not hesitate about killing their own kind. So this village just kind of shows that the rot has really taken place in this. As the Corvians say, they want you to burn the rot away, which Sister Frieda is preventing. Next, we have the interior of the castle, the place of worship. So this is where we first go in, and we first meet Sister Frieda. She is sitting here. So it is a beautiful interior. We have lots of candelabras and chandeliers, as well as lots of different paintings, and this great altar which plays a pivotal role at the end game. And here's our player character. He has a shield on his right arm and a great sword on his back. So this is after we have entered the altar and we make our way in. This is the boss arena, and this is where we first meet Father Ariandel. He is chained up and is currently flagellating himself. He's asking us and Sister Frieda to bring him his flail when we first meet him. He is an incredibly well-designed looking enemy. He's not quite scary at first, but he is definitely odd looking. He's absolutely huge as well. And again, his voice actor is really, really good. The voice actors for the Ashes of Ariandel DLC is top notch. This is also the arena where we fight Sister Frieda. This is the Painter's Chamber, which is on the next page. Also, Sister Frieda is the sister of Yuria of Londor. So just a little bit of lore for you guys, which I think is really, really cool. So next we have, this is a little bit dark to see, but this is at the very top in the attic of the main church that we enter. This is after we free the Painter Girl and after we have defeated all of the bosses, or the main bosses anyway. We bring her up here and she starts to build. She wants to build a new painting that is a quiet, dark, and damp place. However, she is missing a pigment, and that pigment is the Dark Soul, which will be important once we get into the Ringed City DLC. So I keep catching my pages on my portable charger as my phone is quite low. So this, speaking of the Ringed City, this is it. So this looks like where we drop down to fight the Demon Prince in his arena. We actually fight two demons. We fight the demon of, what is it? I believe it's the demon of hatred and the demon in pain. And then once we kill both of them, then the demon prince appears, and the demon prince is dependent, or like his variation is dependent on which of the first two demons you kill first. Now this is the same demon prince that Lorien fought and quote-unquote killed, but ended up losing the loss of his legs, which is really cool, actually having a chance to fight him ourselves. As you can see, it's a very dark and gloomy looking boss arena. Here is some more images of the Ringed City. So we have the full view of the Ringed City here. You can see this is where we first spawn in and make our way across here. We have some more pictures here of some of the different architecture, and here are some of the different statues that we come across in the DLC. And this is another full view of the Ringed City. So this picture here really showcases the beauty of the Ringed City. And here are some of the different cathedrals and stuff. Now the lore behind the Ringed City is it was gifted to the Pygmies by Lord Gwyn. And it was essentially a poisoned gift. He wanted to give them a city as a reward for their help in the fight against the dragons, but the city is at the edge of the world, so they were nowhere near the royal family to be able to say, I don't know, possibly plot against them. But the Ringed City is also a kind of prison. It's ringed city, so it's ringed in terms of like it's has a massive wall around it. So as much as the Pygmies did make it their own, and it is a very beautiful city, it is essentially an open air prison. So here we have one of the cathedrals. I believe this is where we find Princess Filianora. We have our player character here. And then here, yeah, this is the royal mausoleum here. And this is the Church of Filianora. So this is where we go to fight one of the bosses. What's cool about this boss is it is a giant. However, he summons in some people. If you are playing offline, he summons in an NPC fighter, which is she is fairly easy to defeat. However, if you're playing online, and especially when this came out, people who have joined this covenant can actually be teleported in to serve as the boss, so it is very hit and miss. Sometimes you get a boss player who is an absolute scrub, and other times you get people who will pound you into dust. So here is Princess Filianora's chamber. This is the interior, church interior, and Filianora's rest. So you can see Filianora here laying on some kind of bed, clutching her egg, which is very, very important. So this is also the sunken district of the Ringed City. So this is an optional area that we can drop down to, and this is where we can have our proper boss fight against Dark Eater Medea. So Dark Eater Medea is a ancient dragon who is loyal to the humans and the he is loyal to the pygmies and the humans. I'm not sure if he is loyal to the gods, but he is certainly not hostile to the humans. He is named Dark Eater Medea, as his task is to essentially eat all forms of the abyss. So we encounter him a couple times through the game, and we have one little miniature boss fight against him where we knock him off a cliff and he kind of falls down, but he's not defeated. And then later on we go down and fight him in this. In my opinion, this fight is the hardest From Software fight in all of the Dark Souls series. Harder than Slave Knight Gale, harder than the Nameless King. I really like this fight. It is so good, and the Dragon Medea is absolutely huge. I hope we get to see a picture of him. So this is the Slave Knight Gale arena. So this is after you break Princess Filianor's egg. You see that the Ringed City has gone to dust after eons of time has passed. And you see the Pygmy Lords have all been slaughtered and there's blood everywhere. But there's one Pygmy that is crawling towards Filianor. There's also a little cathedral you can find with one of the NPCs from the main game who has locked herself in the chapel. And when she sees you, she is instantly hostile to you, thinking that you have caused this calamity upon her city. Even though technically you have just, inadvertently. So, bosses. So this is bosses for the DLCs. So here we have Lady Frida. So she is one of the main bosses for the Ashes of Ariandel DLC. We fight her alongside this boss, which we'll get to, and she has 3 stages, all of which are vastly different. I believe she is the only boss in Dark Souls history that has 3 different stages. So managing your Estus for this is quite important. Over here, we have Father Ariandel. So he is, for the most part, peaceful, and he is sitting here flagellating himself, and his blood goes into this bowl. So when you first enter the boss arena, you fight Sister Frida on her own. Once you kill Sister Frida for the first time, Father Ariandel absolutely goes insane. He breaks his chains, he drops his flail, he picks up his bowl filled with his blood, turns it to fire, and starts spraying fire all around the arena, so the whole arena catches on fire. And then he starts chasing you, trying to smash you with this bow, which deals insane damage. And at this point, Sister Frida is back in her second phase, so you are dealing with 2 enemies. Quite cool. What I should also say about this boss fight is you are able to summon Slave Knight Gale, which is quite cool. I normally don't use NPC summons for some fights. However, I do use Gale in this fight, not because I'm using him to help with the difficulty of the fight, but I feel it is very relevant to the story and the lore of Slave Knight Gale. He wants the same thing we want in order to help the little painter girl. So next we have the Demon Prince. So this is the Demon Prince that we fight at the very start of the Ringed City DLC. As you can see, he is not your typical design for a demon. He is much more of like a bat-like creature. So he spews fire and has wings and is capable of all sorts of aerial moves and everything. So he flies around the battlefield, which is crazy. You can also summon Slave Knight Gale for this fight. I don't for this one, just because it's not that important to the story. I only summon NPCs for boss fights when it is relevant to the story of said boss fight. Here we have Dark Eater Medea. I'm so glad we got some pictures of him. So here he is here, this absolutely massive black dragon. Again, he is one of the ancient dragons who is still alive. We see some different concept art of him here. He is on his knees here. Some different concept art of his head from different angles. This one is like straight on, which is quite cool. And this one here is just him straight on. So really, really cool. I'm so glad we got to see Medea in this amount of detail. So here we have Slave Knight Gale as he appears at the end of Ashes of Ariandel. I'm at the end of the Ringed City. So he is the final boss in the Dark Souls series, and he is very deserving of that title. He is extremely powerful. He has all kinds of moves. He has this massive sword. He has a lot of dark magic, and he has a repeater crossbow, which is so cool. It reminds me a lot of the crossbow used by Guts in Berserk. Again, this is not my first reference to Berserk in this video. This is probably about my fourth. But yeah, I also like how Slave Knight Gale in this stage has become a lot more animalistic. He is trying to get the blood of the Dark Soul for the Painter Girl to use as pigment, so he has quite literally eaten the pygmies to try and get it, since the pygmies all have a little bit of the Dark Soul in them, since the furtive pygmy obtained the Dark Soul in Dark Souls 1. When he sees us, he is surprised that we are still here, but he demands that we hand over our Dark Soul, and when we do not, he starts fighting us. He moves super fast, and the boss arena for him is massive, which is really cool. Another picture of Slave Knight Gale. So we see his sword here. I really like the design of his sword. It looks quite menacing in the fact that it's broken. It's like half of it is missing here, and the bit that is still at full length almost has this like jagged bit to it from a little bit that has snapped off at the end. We see Gale with his red hood and the massive beard, as well as his massive flowing red cape. So I just think the design of Gale is very well done. So, enemies. Ashes of Ariandel. So this is the Farron follower. So this is a just typical soldier that we fight throughout the Ashes of Ariandel DLC. Here we have the Birch Maidens. So these are trees that have branches but have the head and hair of a woman. If you get too close to them, they will breathe frost on you, which does insane frost damage. But if you get even closer, they will grab you and give you severe frost damage to the point that it might even actually kill you. Here we have one of the painting Saraphages. I believe that's what that says. It's essentially just like a massive fly type enemy. Here we have some of the Millwood Knights. So these guys are essentially the heavier, bulkier versions of the standard enemies. These guys are a lot tougher. They have a lot of range of weapons, from axes to great swords to great bows. And they are quite a challenge to take out depending on when you start the DLC. Here is a Chief Millwood Knight. So this guy is essentially the leader of the Millwood Knights. As you can see, his beard is white, the antlers on his helmet are white, and just his general clothes are a lot paler. So this guy is quite a challenge to deal with even when you're fully leveled. But yeah, and it's not just that there's one of these guys, there's multiple of them. By the way, I should probably say, when I say fully leveled, I am referring to level 120. That is the meta level for Dark Souls games, especially Dark Souls 3 with PvP. So when I say fully leveled, I mean level 120. Just so you guys know what I actually mean. So here we have the Corvian Knight. This is probably my favorite enemy in Ashes of Ariandel. So we have this massive crow creature with this massive cape with a hood. And they have throwing knives and these massive daggers, which they have in all of their hands. Such a good enemy. The design is really good, how they work is really good, how they fight is really good. And also the fact that they slaughter standard Corvians just shows how ruthless they are. Here is the Forlorn One. So this is just another type of Corvian. However, this guy looks a lot sicker than the other ones that we saw earlier. So here we have the Merkman. So I can't remember exactly where these guys are located. I believe they are in one of the lower sections of the map, but they look almost like shadows, which is very, very cool. Then we have the Pilgrim Pupa. So this is again another enemy that we find in one of the lower levels of the church. It's a very parasitic looking life form, and it actually gives me the creeps just looking at it, especially with its nose. So here we have an angel. So this is our first enemy that we see in, that we have seen in this book for the Ringed City DLC. So I talked earlier about how the pilgrims transformed into those flying creatures, whereas these pilgrims transformed into actual angels, and they're able to shoot these massive beams at you of energy that deal insane damage. However, the angels are actually being controlled or hosted by a stationary enemy, which is quite weak. So if you kill them, the angel falls. It is possible to kill the angel by using a bow or something like that. But then if you die, the angel respawns. If you want to permanently kill them, you need to kill the person that is essentially hosting them. And then here's another depiction of the angel from a different angle. So here we have one of the giants that we see when we first cross our first bridge in the game. This is some pictures of him here. So this giant, what he does is he summons a bunch of knights that have longbows. These are essentially knights that ventured into the Ringed City and died, and their souls are now used as a defense mechanism. The armor of them is actually very similar to the Knights of Liam Lois in Dark Souls 2. But yeah, it is impossible to take these enemies on straightforward. You have to kind of run between cover and eventually get to this giant and kill him. Once you kill him, he does not respawn, which is quite cool. So next up we have the Ringed City Hollow, which is this enemy here. It's quite cool how it's slightly different to the main type of hollow we are used to seeing. Here is the Ringed City Former Knight. So this is a knight of the Ringed City who is no longer a knight and is quite deformed. As you can see, he's on his hands and knees. And then here we have a Ringed City Cleric who walks on all fours, has this kind of shell on their back, and casts some very deadly spells on you. It is possible to learn these same spells, or miracles, I apologize, but when you are fighting him or these types of enemies, they are infuriating if you get caught in one of the So this is another one of my favorite enemy types in New Ring City, and that is the Ringed Knight. So these knights have some extremely cool armor, really ornamental. I have a lot to say about these guys. So these guys were knights that fought in the war against the dragons with Gwyn. However, Gwyn put the dark sign on their armor to make them stand out and to make everyone know that, hey, these guys are technically working with us, but they are not to be trusted, and they are inheritors of the dark soul. So their armor is very flame-proof, as they have been used to fighting dragons. They come with a lot of different weapons, from long swords to great swords and stuff like that. What is even cooler about them is they have a great shield, which is just a straight up dragon head, which I think is so, so cool. This is the Herald Legion Knight. So this is a version of one of the enemies we see in the main game. However, they have this massive void where their head should be. So it is possible to kill them by dealing normal damage to them in the normal FromSoft way. But the way to insta-kill them is to get above them and perform a plunging attack on them. You drive your weapon into their little head, and it kills them instantly. This is the White Face Locust. So these guys appear multiple times in the game, not always hostile, and sometimes they give you some very cryptic advice. NPCs. So first off, we have Slave Knight Gale. This is him before the boss fight. So as you can see, he's still wearing his Slave Knight stuff. He looks more like a standard human. It's cool to see his shield. I don't think I've actually ever seen Gale's shield before. And even cooler is this appears to be Slave Knight Gale without his mask and stuff, which is so cool. Here are some different armor sets. So this is what he is wearing underneath the cloak. It's very, for a slave knight, it is technically actually pretty nice looking armor, if I do say so myself. Next, we have Sir Wilhelm, Knight of Londor. So, Sir Wilhelm is essentially Lady Frieda's guardian. So when we first arrive in the Ashes of Ariandel DLC, he tells us that he has seen our kind and we need to leave, that this is no place for us. We are already Lord of Londor. Go back. You have no place here. And his voice actor is amazing. Please look up some of the voice lines for Sir Wilhelm and you will see what I'm talking about. His armor is even cooler. He has this black steel helmet with this kind of cape going down, and then his gauntlets and his greaves. He has the Dark Hand, which can be used to cast a shield, which is very interesting, seeing as he is not a Dark Wraith. This is him without the cape, so this is what he looks like without his without his cape. Here's another picture of his helmet. This is him from the back. This is him from the back with the without the cape. And then eventually at the midpoint of the game, he ambushes you. Or not ambushes you, but he confronts you right away. And he goes into this big long speech about how he has seen our kind time and time again. And because we refuse to leave, he tries to kill us. So he has this really cool technique for his weapon where he's able to cover it in black fire. He is very difficult to fight, in my opinion. He has an insane health pool, and his shield is quite interesting as it's not a physical shield. He also is fond of chugging Estus flasks, so it takes a while to do it. It's a bit of a war of attrition. I always wear his armor in these games. I think it is so cool. Next, we have the Painter Girl. So this is her on her little painter stool thingy. This is her from the front, with some painting supplies on the table, and her from the back. This is her up in the attic painting, and then this is the painting that she's currently working on. She has this massive piece of white hair for such a young girl. Next, we have Shira, Knight of Filianor. So this is back to the Ringed City. So I believe she is the enemy that you fight in the Church of Filianor if you are playing offline or cannot find someone to invade you. So this is who you go up against. She is not a pushover by any means, but she is quite easy. This is her from the back, and then some more pictures of her here. Quite cool. And then this is the little tiara that she wears on her head. Next up, we have Half-Fight, Spear of the Church. So, actually no, I apologize, I am wrong. So this is who we fight when there is no one available to face us or in invasion. So the Spear of the Church is the Covenant, and he invades us if no one else is able to. He's an NPC, but he is quite challenging. Really cool. I really like him, and I just really like that whole boss fight, both in idea and execution. So this is Amnesiac Lap. So he has this massive plate armor. Again, his helmet is like that. I believe it's called the duckbill helmet, but I cannot see that helmet without thinking of the Knights of Liam Lois. The duckbill helmet is the real life term for that helmet, by the way, not the Dark Souls version. And since there's nothing else about him, I should probably just say that it turns out that Lap is actually Patches in disguise. And he does his usual of telling us there's some treasure. And at this point, Lap has been an upstanding guy, so we kind of trust him. And then he kicks us down the hole and takes off his helmet and laughs at us, saying that, you know, even at the end of the world, throughout all the eons, he's the only one who is not greedy and is sick and tired of seeing greedy people and wants to make them suffer. So here's a great picture of Princess Filianor with her egg. She looks like she's been crying. It's not known how long she's been sitting in this position. So this is some more pictures of Filianor. We can see her in almost like a bedrobe with her long disheveled hair. Some pictures of her hands and her from the side. This is the Pygmy King. So this is who we see once we do the time skip. This is who is crawling towards us, bleeding, begging for Filianor to intervene. And then this is just some more concept art. So this is him as he is crawling around along the ground. So next up, actually, sorry, did I skip a page? No, I didn't. So next up is Chapter 3, Arms and Inventory. So this is to do with weapons and shields. I am not going to be spending a lot of time on this. I will just be saying what each one is and what and which one it is. So this is Vort's Great Hammer. Then we have the Astor's Spear, which is this weapon here. The Demon's Great Axe, which is this, very demonic looking. Then the Demon's Fist, which is this. I really like the different iterations of fist weapons in Dark Souls games. This is the Crystal Sage Rapier, which we get here. I'm assuming we get this from a boss soul after defeating the Crystal Sage. I'm not sure. I've never really bought that weapon since I am not a dex person. Then we have the Farron Greatsword. So this is that sword here. This sword gives you the ability to do like the front flip attack that Artorias does. It is not the best at all. It is so slow, and people and enemies alike are very easy to move. However, it is very cool looking. Next up, we have the Cleric's Candlestick, which is this, and the what's this? And here we have the Walnir's Holy Sword. So this is the sword belonging to Lord Walnir. Next, we have Yorm's Great Shield. So this is the shield used by Yorm the Giant. However, he lost someone that he cared about, and when he did that, he discarded his shield and put an extra notch in his weapon, and his what he said was that he no longer has anything to protect, which is very cool and very sad at the same time. This is the the Old King's Great Hammer, and then this is Yorm's Great Machete. As you can see, it has this notch in it. I always use this weapon for my strength build. It's so good. I always like to parry enemies while invading people, and have a straight sword equipped, parry an enemy, and then switch to this weapon, and then parry them with the Hornet Ring. It is essentially a one-hit kill, and even if it's not, it's so funny. So this is the Profound Greatsword, and the Greatsword of Judgment. So these are the two weapons that we can get from defeating Pontiff Sullivan. To get both of them, we have to enter New Game Plus though, as you were only able to get one from his boss soul per playthrough. This is the Dark Moon Longbow. Looks pretty cool. I never really use bows in these games, but it does look quite cool. Next, we have the Dragonslayer Great Axe, which is this, and the Dragonslayer Great Shield. So this is used by the Dragonslayer armor boss, obviously. Next, we have Lothric's Holy Sword. So this is what Lothric uses. Then we have Lorian's Great Sword, which is this one. As you can see, it's being consumed by fire. And then we have the Twin Prince's Great Sword. So again, you have to do New Game Plus to get this weapon. So after defeating the Twin Princes, you have the option of choosing one of these weapons. And then on New Game Plus, once you have unlocked the other weapon, you can then combine them to create the Twin Prince's Greatsword. As a Greatsword fan, I always like swords in games more than anything else. This weapon is really good. Next, we have Gundir's Halberd, as you can see here. Then we have the Dragonslayer Sword Spear. So this is what is used by the Nameless King. Again, it's interesting that even though he's aligned with dragons, he is wielding a Dragonslayer Sword Spear. Then we have the Storm Curved Sword, which is this one here. Quite cool. I'm not a curved sword fan myself, but it does look quite cool. And then we have the Firelink Greatsword, which is this massive sword with imbued with flame in the curled design of the swords in the bonfires. Next, we have the Rose of Ariandel. So this is one of the weapons we get from that DLC. Then we have the Demon's Scar, which is this kind of fiery-based sword. Then we have Frida's Great Scythe, which is this. I'm not a scythe guy, however, I do know someone who is a scythe guy, and she has told me that this weapon is so good if you like playing with scythes. And then here we have the Frayed Blade, which I believe you get from defeating Sir Wilhelm. I might be wrong about that, but I really like the look of it. It just looks cool. I can't remember if it's actually quite good or not, but it definitely looks very, very cool. So here we have some different weapons here. So we have the Repeating Crossbow, which I believe is this one here. And this is a very similar version of it here. Again, very similar to Guts' crossbow from Berserk. Then we have some different types of swords here. It does not say what type of swords these actually are. It does say that this is Gale's greatsword, which makes sense, but I don't see anything that says what these swords are meant to be. Maybe I'm missing something. No, I'm not. So I'm sorry, I don't know. I can't remember what weapons these ones are. So next up, we have some spears. So we have the Lothric Knight Spear. So these are used by the Lothric Knights. The Lothric Knight Greatsword, which is this. Again, another great sword. The Lothric Knight Straight Sword, which is the weapon that I always use for my builds. This is a farmable weapon, which you can farm very early on. I got mine on my 3rd try, and it has brought me to the end game on essentially every single New Game Plus. This is what I always use, despite trying to incorporate a heavier weapon, but it dishes out so much damage so fast, especially when scaled with strength. Next up, we have the Winged Knight Halberd, which is this one, used by the Winged Knights. Then we have the Winged Knight Twin Axe, which is this one here. Then the Lothric Knight Great Shield, which is this massive shield here. The Lothric Knight Shield, which is just this one. So this is a standard shield, whereas this is a great shield. These are actually two different classes of shields and great shields. Great shields provide a lot more protection, however, they are extremely heavier and limit movement and mobility and stuff. Next up is the Iron Round Shield. So this is a very small round shield. Very good for parrying if you don't quite have the cestus yet. So here we have the Irithyll Straight Sword, which is this one. It is covered in frost. We have the Bloodlust, which is this katana, which is really, really cool. It is made out of someone's spine, which is just so badass. We have the Corvian Great Knife, which is this one. This looks very similar to a weapon that is in Elden Ring. This looks very similar to the Finger Slayer blade in Elden Ring. Then we have the Great Wooden Hammer, which is this one. So this is just a straight up wooden hammer. We have the Hollow Manservant's Saw, which we have seen before in, I think, part 2 with this one. It is a double-handed saw that someone slams down. We have the Peasant Hollow Sickle and the Hollow Maneater's Mortar, which is this one. So this is essentially just a massive mortar or a massive pot that someone uses to smash you with. Then we have the Irithyll Rapier. We have the Morn's Great Hammer. So this is the Great Hammer wielded by Sir Morn. Really decorative. I know I said I'm a sword guy, but I will be honest, this does tempt me. If I could power stance these like I could I'm in Elden Ring, I would definitely use them. Because in Elden Ring, I have a weapon, I can't remember the name of it, but it is very similar to this, and I have two of them that I power stance, and I'm still able to light roll, and it is so much fun. Next up, we have the Sage's Crystal Staff, which is here. Again, another thing you can get from the Crystal Sages. Then we have the Dark Sword. So this is the sword of the Dark Wraith. Quite cool. Not the best, not the worst, but it at least looks really cool. And then here we have the Moaning Shield. So it is a small shield, but it has like the face of someone on it, which looks quite creepy. So here we have the Cathedral Evangelist's weapon. I believe that is this axe right here, then the spiked mace. I believe both of these are actually used by the Evangelists. The Cathedral Knight Great Shield, which again is a massive shield, but this one has a very cool decoration of an eagle on it. A Warden Twin Blade, really cool. I do wish that it was a proper twin blade, like in Dark Souls 2 or Elden Ring, but it's still quite a cool weapon nonetheless. Here we have a Great Mace, which is essentially just a massive mace. Here is the Cathedral Knight Greatsword. So very cool, very similar to the sword that Guts from Berserk has prior to the eclipse. The Man Grub's Staff, which is this. This is what the Man Grubs use to attack you by casting spells. The Archdeacon's Great Staff. So this is what some of the deacons inside the cathedral use against you. You can see that there's a little flame or candle inside there. Next we have the, sorry, I can't see that, the Elden Gru's weapon. So I believe that is this that is this weapon here, which just looks like a tree, if I'm being honest. It looks like someone pulled a sprouting tree out of the ground with roots and all and just started hitting people with it. Then we have the Exile's Greatsword. For a starting strength weapon or a strength weapon that you can find early in the game, this is quite good. Then we have the Hazel Pick, which is this weapon here. Really cool. Again, not a scythe guy, but it does look quite interesting. So then we have the Gru Rot Shield, which is essentially just a piece of wood that looks like it's falling apart. A lot of the Gru weapons are just really bad, like, you know, a piece of wood that's falling apart, and also like a literal tree, which is so funny to me. Then again, we have another Gru shield. So this looks like a shield that is like taped together. I know they don't have tape in Dark Souls, but that's just what it looks like to me, which just adds to the comedy of it. Next, we have the Rotten Gru Dagger. So that is this one here. This is a poison dagger, if I remember correctly. Then the Gru Rotten Curved Sword. So same kind of thing, but a lot more powerful and has a lot more range than the dagger, but is still capable of poisoning you. Then we have the Gru Weapon 1, which is this. I'm not even sure what this is. This looks like a bunch of some kind of plant with a bunch of barbs on it. I think I genuinely cannot tell with these Gru weapons. The Rotten Gru Spear and the Gru Weapon 2, which appears to be some kind of axe. I am not a fan of the Gru weapons, if you guys can not tell. Sorry, let me just... Actually, no, I don't need to zoom out. I'm sorry. So next up, we have the Immolation Tinder. So this is a weapon that we get from some of the fire mages in the Boreal Valley, in Irithyll. It is an interesting weapon. It's not the best. I wouldn't even say it's good, but it is definitely one of the more unique weapons in Dark Souls 3. And I'm always a fan of having unique weapons, even though they are not quite good. Next up, we have the Pontiff Knight Great Scythe, which is this one here. It does look really cool, and I like how it has this little bit on the back and then these two kind of spikes down here. It almost makes it seem like, so you can attack enemies from both sides, having your main scythe going here and having this little almost blunt side on the back for like a backswing attack. Then we have the Pontiff Knight Curved Sword, which is this weapon. I find it interesting because this is not really a curved sword. It's like a great sword that just has a little bit of a small curve, rather than it being fully curved. But again, very, very cool design. The weapons in Irithyll are really, really cool. Next, we have the Yorshka's Spear, which is this weapon here. It's cool. We have this like massive block here between the hilt, between the staff and the actual spear point. Then we have the, the Morian Blade. So this is the Morian Blade here. So it is designed essentially to be as cruel as humanly possible. So it is a sword with all of these different notches on it. And the whole goal of it is that, I believe that it causes bleed damage, though I might be incorrect. But the whole point of it is that, I know, in real life, if you were to stab someone with this, they could not pull it out because it is stuck in you with all of these barbs and protrusions. So next up we have the Sword of the Avowed, which is this sword here. This weapon I don't believe we actually get to use as a standard weapon. This is the ceremonial weapon or sword that we use in the marriage ceremony with Anri. So, quite cool. I don't believe we actually can use it as like a normal weapon, but it's cool that they included it here anyways. Then we have the Crescent Moon Sword, which is this. So this looks more like a sickle than a sword, but still, I think it's quite cool. Then we have the Gargoyle Flame Spear, which is this here. It has like this little, almost like a lantern inside, but it actually looks more like a lance than a spear. Next up, we have the Gargoyle Flame Hammer. So I've never used this. I don't know how it works, but I'm assuming that once you use it like a hammer and smash it on something, that flames erupt from it. I'm just thinking of the Boom Hammer from Bloodborne. This is the Storm Ruler. So this is the weapon that you and the Onion Knight use to defeat Yhorm. Its special ability is you can charge up to unleash this massive wind attack, which brings giants to their knees. it is great for the Yurm fight, but essentially useless in any other activity. Next is the the Eleonora, which is this really immaculate looking double-sided axe. I really like the kind of white tones that it has here. Then we have the Old Wolf Curved Greatsword, which we get here. Really, really cool, especially with the barbs that we see on it. Then we have the Handmaid's Dagger, which is this one. So I'm assuming this is a dagger that some handmaid or something had at some point. Next up, we have the Gotthard Twin Blade, which looks to be these two here. So I'm not really sure how that works. I don't know. I can't remember how twin blades work in Dark Souls 3. This looks like two different weapons. So this one looks like your standard straight sword, whereas this one looks like a rapier, but maybe you can combine them to create a different weapon. I'm not quite sure. And then here we have the Onikiri and the Ubadashi. So this is the Onikiri on top, I'm assuming, and the Ubadashi on the bottom. If I am mistaken, I genuinely do apologize. As again, like I said, I do not use any dex weapons in any Dark Souls game. So next up, we have the Osiris, the Consumed King's weapon, which is this up here. I don't even know what this is. This looks like a branch. I can't tell if it's a melee weapon or a spell casting weapon. Then we have the Mendicant's Staff, which is this one here. Next up, we have the Ancient Dragon Great Shield. So this is I can't tell which of these is actually the Great Shield. I'm assuming this one is, just based on the decoration of it. If this is it, it looks really cool. If this is it, I'm not a fan. It looks just plain, and the yellow paint is not good at all. Next up, we have the Follower Shield, which is this one. Has this cool little pattern on it, but apart from that, it's actually not even a good shield, and I don't even use shields. Next up, we have the Follower Javelin, which is here. Very, very cool. Next up, the Follower Torch. So the torches are really cool in Dark Souls. They are good for casting light, and they are just one of those things that it's nice to have one on you at all times, even if you don't have it equipped. Next is the Follower's Saber. So I'm assuming this is it here. However, this does not look anything like a saber. This looks more like a great sword. But yeah, nonetheless, looks really cool. So here we have, let me just make sure this is actually in focus for you guys. So we have, let me just get the glare out of the way. So we have the Millward Greatbow, which is here. So this is one of the weapons in Ashes of Ariandel. This is the Ethereal Oak Shield. So this one looks cool. I like the pattern here. It almost looks like a deer with a bunch of antlers. We have the Millward Battle Axe, which is, which one is it? Sorry, this one here. Then the Quakestone Hammer, which is this one. It's called a hammer, but it honestly just looks more like a rock on the end of the stick, which I adore as someone who is a strength main. I like bonking my enemies on the head with a big rock. Then next is the Earth Seeker, which is this weapon here. So this is a massive double-sided axe. Then we have the Crow Talons. This is what the Corvian Knights use, or one of the weapons anyway. Then we have the Crow Quills, which is this one, a couple weapons that the Corvian Knights use. And same with all these different claw types down here. And then this is the Onyx Blade. I apologize. This is the weapon that Sir Wilhelm uses. And it is capable of being briefly consumed by black fire. So next up, we have a couple of weird weapons on this page at least, and some very cool stuff on this page. So we have the Valorheart, which is, where is it? Sorry, down here. So this is a weapon we get after defeating an optional boss of Ashes of Ariandel. I believe it is the Champion and the Great Wolf. So we get this sword. It almost looks like a gladius from the Roman Empire, as well as this little shield. Next, we get the, does that say? The Aquamarine Dagger, which is here. The Crucifix of the Mad King. So this is that one here. So this looks like some kind of spear that has essentially someone impaled on it still. Very cool, but not my cup of tea in terms of weapons. Next, we have the Ringed Knight Straight Sword. This is it here. I actually have used this weapon a lot in some of my playthroughs. It is quite good. I like straight swords that I can scale with strength, but as long as they have a good moveset. The Lothric Knight Sword has the best moveset of all straight swords in Dark Souls 3, in my opinion. Next up, we have the Ringed Knight Spear. So this is the spear of the Ringed Knights. The Ringed Knights do have quite a lot of different weapons and stuff that they use. So next up is the Ringed Knight paired greatsword. So this is it here. Really massive greatsword, as you guys can see. Next up, we have the Dragonhead Great Shield. So this is what I was talking about earlier. So this is a great shield used by the knights, of the Ringed City Knights. It is literally just the head of a dragon. And keep in mind, heads of dragons are made of stone, and their scales are invulnerable to all damage except lightning. So these, despite being super heavy, if I was a shield user, I would definitely want to use something like this. And then down here we have the Dragonhead Shield, which just looks like a much smaller version. So this is the Great Shield version, and then this is just the standard shield version. Next, so here we have the Split Leaf Greatsword, which is here. This doesn't even look like a greatsword. It looks more like a, I don't even know what you would call it, like a Naginata or something. Then moving on, we have the Sacred Chime of Filianor. So that is this one here. So I'm assuming this is used for casting miracles. Then down here we have the Herald's Curved Greatsword. So it is cool. I personally don't like using them, but the idea of a curved greatsword is a really cool idea, and I'm glad they implemented these weapons into the game. Even though I'm not the biggest fan of a lot of them, just having these very unique weapons I always love having in games. So next up we have the Sellsword Twin Blade, which is this weapon here. I believe by Twin Blade they mean like a dual wielding weapon, rather than an actual twin blade as we've seen in Dark Souls 2 and Elden Ring. Then we have the Saint Bident, which is this weapon here. So this looks like a kind of trident spear. If you look at it from my finger up, it looks like an energy sword from Halo. Maybe that's just me, but I think it looks really cool. Then we have the Golden Ritual Spear. So here that is here. This to me looks like maybe a Dex and Faith weapon. And then we have the Witch's Locks, which is this. I don't even know what this is. I'm assuming it's some kind of sorcery based on witch in the title, but I genuinely have no idea. Next up, we have the, let me just make sure I'm not skipping anything. So next up, we have the Giant Door Shield, which is this here. It is literally just a giant door that you can use as a shield, which is so funny. Next, we have the Sacred Bloom Shield, which is this one here. Really cool. I like the colors of it. Again, I don't use shields, but this one is very cool looking. And then here we have the Crystal Chime. Again, assuming this is for some kind of miracles. Also, this is the back of the Sacred Bloom's shield. I forgot to mention that. Over here, we have the White Hair Talisman, which is this one. So again, this is for casting incantations. Then we have the Drang Hammer, which is this one here. This looks more like a mace than a hammer, but maybe I'm just pulling hairs. Sorry, splitting hairs, not pulling hairs. Jesus, I can barely talk, I'm so tired. Next up, we have the Drang Twin Spears, which are these weapons. I believe that these are, again, a dual wielded weapon type rather than a actual twin spear, as in like you use both of them as one weapon. And then next up, we have the Lothric War Banner. So I'm assuming that this is some kind of faith-based weapon. I'm not sure what it's used for. I'm guessing miracles, but I may be wrong. Okay, so moving on. So this is the inventory. Now, I am not going to be spending any time going through each and every one of these. If you would like to look, please feel free to pause. But this is our general inventory of consumables that we go through in the game. I am just now realizing that the Mana Estus Flask is called the Ashen Estus Flask. So, because I did not realize what it was called in part 1. Next, we have some more of the different consumables. So we have some of the souls from bosses, and these are some of the Covenant items that you get that you trade in and eventually use to unlock new and powerful weapons. My favorite is the Proof of the Concord Well Kept, which gives you the Moonlight Blade ability. Then over here we have the different types of Titanite. Over here we have some more types of scrolls and stuff. So these are things that you would give to characters as well as keys. You know, we have stuff like the Transposing Kiln, which allows you to access boss weapons. You have the Eyes of the Firekeeper, which you can give back to her. And same over here. Here we have some of the rings. Again, not going over them, so feel free to pause here if you would like to see them all. The game does have a interesting amount of rings. One ring I do want to point out is this one, the Hunter's Ring. This increases your stamina recovery rate. And what's interesting is it has a picture of straight up a hunter from Bloodborne, which I think is just such a cool little reference. So here we have our sorceries, all different kinds of them. I've never used a single one of these, but Don't get me wrong, they are good. Here are the pyromancies, which are also quite good. Then we have our miracles. These I do use a lot. So I usually use heal, I use sacred oath, I use great lightning spear. What else do I use? And I use Darkmoon Blade, obviously, because I joined that covenant. It is such a good spell. Wrath of God is also good. And yeah, I absolutely love miracles in this game, and in all games really. Here we have some of the covenant stuff. Some more types of covenant. So we have the no covenant. This is the Warriors of Sunlight, the Way of Blue, the Blue Sentinels, the Blade of the Darkmoon, which is what I always go with to get Darkmoon Blade. We have the Rosaria's Fingers, the Mound Makers, the Watchdogs of Famine, the Aldrich Faithful, and the Spears of the Church. The Spears of the Church are only part of the DLC. And that, everyone, is the book. So that is it for part 3 and for the Dark Souls 3 Design Works book. So thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, I'm genuinely so glad, because I really loved making this. I want to give a quick shout out to my 2 Patreon supporters. So thank you Slice of Life for Life, and thank you Mary the Otaku. Your patronage means the world to me, and everyone else's viewership also means the world to me. So if you are listening to this as you are trying to go to sleep, this is the end of the video, so I would click off now. Otherwise, thank you again for watching. My name has been Crimson. I'll see you guys in the next video, and have a good evening.